Today, we're joined by Quentin and Pavel, which, if you've been in our Discord community, you probably know them. They've been around, they answer questions. They're both really advanced at kind of what they do in the Wix ecosystem, building apps, building sites, both really great community members. So you may have already run into them. But if not, the reason that they're joining us today is to talk about some apps that they built over the summer. Over the summer, we hosted a hackathon in partnership with the Merge community, and you may or may not have seen this. I'm going to drop a link in the chat because it was really cool. Um, and both Pavel and Quentin built two of our winning apps. So this hackathon was about reusability. One of the really cool things about working in Wix Studio is you can build templates for folks that build Wix Studio sites, but maybe want to start with a pre-designed site with some pre-coded features in it. So it was about building templates for reusability, but also blocks apps. And both Quentin and Pavel chose to build apps for this and ended up with two of the winning apps. You can explore the rest of the winning projects on that. Actually, let me make sure I just did the chat right. Did I do that right? Yes, I went to everyone. You can explore the rest of the winning projects in there and just kind of like what the hackathon was about. We will be doing more hackathons and code challenges next year. I don't have the next date ready yet, but if you are not already a member of our Discord, I will drop the link to the community in there. If you pop in there and give yourself the developer role, anytime I post news, whether it's an event, API updates, anything like that, you'll make sure to get those notifications. So I'm Amanda. I am developer advocate focusing primarily on the Wix Studio products. So anytime you write code on a Wix Studio site and you get completely baffled and stuck, you probably run into me at some point during your journey. And I'm going to let Ori introduce himself here, and then we'll let the guys talk about their apps because that's what you're really here for, not to listen to me yap a lot.
So thanks, Amanda. Hi, I'm Uri. I'm from the developer care team in Wix, and we assist everyone who's building apps for the Wix ecosystem, primarily apps that are going to be public on the Wix app market. And we hang out on the Discord. So if anyone is interested in talking about apps, has questions about apps, you can find us in the Building Apps channel. And take it away, Kenton.
Okay, thank you. So let me present.
Perfect.
So today I'm going to speak about the GIF Registry app, which I created for the hackathon. But first, let me introduce myself. So I'm Quentin. I'm a web developer from Belgium. I created the Code Enhancement Studio back in 2019. And I'm a Wix partner who focus exclusively on Wix and Velo. So I don't do other system. I really focus on Wix, and yeah, I love it. So about the app creation, so I want to give you a bit about my process, about how I created the app for the hackathon. I'm going to present the app and show you a bit about the architecture, very high level, but just to give you an idea about how it works. And I'm going to finish about what's need to be done on the app. So first, let's start with the ideation process. So how I came up with the idea. So yeah, first of all, I went on the hackathon website and really try to study the constraint and the goal of the hackathon, right? Because if you want to, if your aim is just to have fun and participate, you can just have an idea about what's the just are going to look. But if you really want to win an hackathon, you really need to understand what is the scoring system, what the judges are going to look for, and keep that in mind when you develop your app. So once I had that understood, I tried to find an original concept for the app, something that was not already done on Wix. So I went on the app market and I looked a bit about what was done already. And then I went back to my list of apps ID. So every time I have an app ID, I take a note. And when I speak with someone that say, hey, I will need to do that, or I think this is a great idea. Anytime something happens like that, I take notes. And when I have time, like for the hackathon, I go back to that list and I check what could be done and what would be a cool ID based on the hackathon rules, right? Then I took all those ideas and I tried to find the one that had a long-term viability, right? Because the goal of the hackathon is to have fun and discover the system, but I also wanted to be able to sell the app once the hackathon was complete. Okay. And something that's really important also was to be able to do that on Wix, because Wix is it's a closed system. You don't have the ability to change everything everywhere. You don't own the system. So I had to go back in the Velo API and check that all the API I would require in order to create the app were available. Okay. And lastly, I try to have fun because that's the whole aim of the hackathon. I'm going to give you a quick app tour. So the Gift Registry app is a gift registry system for Wix Store. So the whole idea of a gift registry system is to allow someone to go on an e-commerce website, create a wish list of what they would like to receive for their wedding or their new baby, or any event. So you can create the list, and once the list is created, you can share it with your colleague, family, friends, and then they can go to the website and buy the item in your name, right? The item gets delivered to your place, and you ensure that not two persons are going to buy you the same item, because every time an item is buy, it's removed from the list. I think it's good also for the merchant, because it allows them to provide a new mean of traffic to their websites. It's also good because they don't have to go to another system and create the registry on a third party, right? The whole idea of the app was to be plug and play. You install the app and it's automatically configured to work with your Wix Store catalog, and you don't need to manage the catalog in another website. And the full idea of the app, well, my constraint for the app was to have it full contained on Wix using all the tools that were provided by Wix without the needs to install or maintain a server or a third-party system. So let me give you a small tour of the app. So once you install the app, you have a new set of pages that appear on your website. You have, first of all, the browse registry, which is the page that your user are going to share with their friends, where they can say, hey, I want that item. I want to add X amount of that item to my cart. And once they do that, they follow the classic Wix Store experience, right? Haven't changed anything outside of what was required. Then you have the registry, where user can see their own registry, view what items they were bought, what are still not bought, and so on. I'm going to go a bit deeper into the app, but in blocks in a minute. So yeah, as I say, I wanted to have it plug and play, so easy to use. Let's speak a bit about the architecture of the app. So for the front end, I based the whole system on MobX, which is a library that allow you to do reactive programming. And on the back end, I try to follow the domain-driven design organization, which is an idea to separate your code into modules of different purpose. So I'm going to show you a bit more how I organize that in a minute. I also wanted to have a separation between different type of widgets. So I have what's called presentation widget and smart widget. So that's a constraint I add on myself because of the hackathon. So the goal of the hackathon was to create reusable elements. And so being able to separate my widget between presentation and smart widgets where to comply a bit with that goal. Okay. And finally, I wanted to be able to work with Wix Store, but I wanted also that the app was compatible with any custom store. So on Wix, you can work with Wix Store, but you can now also create your own store system. Okay. And so the whole app is compatible with that system. So with a bit of coding, you can make the gift registry app compatible with your own custom store. So let me show you a bit about the app and what I meant. So for instance, I have here a widget to let you select an item from the store. So when you browse the website, you can add an item to your wish list, and then you have to select the options and the quantity you want to add to your registry. Okay. This is what I call a presentation component or widget. What does it mean? It means that it's a widget that the sole purpose is to present information, not to manage the data, right? So the widget receive a product and will be displaying the product information, but will not take care of any logic regarding the availability of the product or saving the product. That is done via the property and what is given to the widget. Okay. On the other hand, we have smart components, which are components that combine presentational components within them, and they take care of orchestrating the communication between all the widgets. So for instance, on this page, which is the page here, that is used to manage your wish list. Okay, so you have the item, you can modify, add, and delete item. I have three presentational components. One is the information, your data, so the delivery address. So that's one component here. You have one component that presents the item, and you have one component that lets you filter and sort the list. Okay, so those are three components that have their own widget. Okay, and the view registry page combine all of them. So this architecture lets you combine different items without constraints. So if you were to create your own registry system, or if you want to modify the registry system, you can just delete that widget and add your own code instead, and while keeping the rest. Okay, so the whole idea here is to be modular as modular as possible, so that anyone can adapt the registry system to their own website or system. Okay. I wanted also to speak about the domain-driven design. So that's what I meant for the backend. So the whole idea here is to separate your code into different modules. You have, in my case, I don't follow the rule strictly, but in my day-to-day practice, I have usually three types of modules. So the first one are the entity. So the entity is anything that's inside any business entity that represents an object from your business. Okay, so in my case, I only have a registry. So the registry is the main component of my app, and anything that's going to manipulate the registry is going to be written inside the registry module. Next to that, I have the repository. So repository are anything that's connected to your database or data source. Okay, it can be Wix data, it can be another online system to store your data, or it can be an API where you store your data. Okay, so for instance, I needed to have the country code for in order to manage the delivery address. And so inside this module, we'll have only code that's used to insert, save data, or just manipulate the database. Okay, so that architecture lets me have all the data related code here, and the rest of my code doesn't have to worry about where the data is stored because it's the responsibility of the repository. And finally, I have the service. So here, the service is all the code that's related to your app, but that's not business dependent. Okay, so in that case, I have a service that's going to manage all the members, but you can have a service that's, for instance, manage email. So something that makes sense by itself, but it's not dependent of the current business case. So the value of working with that is that I can take that module here and use it in another app, and it will work directly. So I can port my code across different systems. So yeah, so it's a quick tour, but that's how the system is organized. I wanted to say that this was built for the hackathon. So I took shortcuts. Of course, not everything is bug-free. Not everything is designed. The whole idea here was to create like an advanced proof of concept that I could present and say, hey, this is going to work, but I want to focus first on proving that it can work, right? And then now what I need to do is refactor some code, because with the haste of the hackathon, you try to work very quickly, you copy paste code left and right, which is not really suitable for long-term development, of course. So first I need to rework my code before releasing the app. I obviously want to improve the user experience and the design, and covering more edge cases. So while working on the hackathon, I really focus on one user story or one user flow, right? And I purposely did not cover everything because that was not the aim for me on the hackathon. And finally, I want to be able to support monetization, because again, that was not the aim of the hackathon. So at the moment, anyone can use the app without limit, but I want to create revenue from that app. So I will create some mechanism to be able to promote revenue from that. And obviously, I would need to support feedback and feature requests. So that will be the final stage, being able to listen to feedback from the users and adapt the updates in the future. So yeah, if you have any question, I'll be waiting here, or you can contact me by email or on Discord. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Quentin. That was awesome. It would look like it was a really big undertaking for a hackathon to me. It seems like you did a whole lot of work. But it'll be really exciting to see how you get this packaged and ready to launch. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this on the app market when it's ready to be released. And Quentin does a lot of other really interesting work. And I'm sure if, like I said, join the Discord community, you'll see him around having a lot of great conversations about code if you like to really get into the technical bits of it all. So let's pass this along to our next presenter here. Pavel, if you want to take it away, go for it.
Perfect. Thank you, Amanda. Yeah, for me also, I was blown away by the good work of Quentin. Now I feel a bit bad presenting mine, but let's go. So let me start sharing. Nice. So I'm not a good PowerPoint person, so I'm gonna use this instead. Which is my VS Code. So this is part of the Merge Dev Hackathon, as Amanda mentioned. I'm going to start about me. So my name is Pavel. I come from Czech Republic, but 7 years ago, I moved to Sweden, where I live now. I'm a software dude, so I did like software all my career. I work in some companies and I did some stuff. So Oracle, Klarna, Automatic are some of the highlights that I've done. But then around 4 years ago, I think, bit or less, I started my own company, Beaver Codes, which is the company name, and I started to do work with startups a little bit more. So built a lot of startup-y things, software products that ultimately failed, most of them. Some of them are still around. But one interesting startup that I work with and still work with is doing with recruitment tools, which turns out to be important for this presentation. And then there are some other stuff that I'm still working on. And yeah, I think like year and a half ago, I was approached by a friend of mine who has a restaurant if I can build a Google reviews stripe on his Wix website. So I went in and learned about how Wix works, how do you add extensions to it, and figured out I need to build a Wix app to achieve that. Back then, Velo wasn't as prominent, or I couldn't find how to do it that way. So that led me to my first app, which is Google Reviews. And that one was fully self-hosted and still is. So that means everything runs on my server, or like Google server, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, I put a note here. There was overnight success after 10 years because the app, I didn't expect it, but the app actually started to work really well. But it was like my 10th software product that I built. It was the first Wix app, but I built a bunch of other failed stuff, which is something I wanted to get across during this evening. Nice. So now I have 5 apps. So I have these 5. 2 of them are built on blocks now, which is career and job board, the one that I'm going to be talking about more in a second. That's the one that was part of the hackathon that won the 3rd prize. And then Final Count Up is a very small app that was kind of side effect of the hackathon. Let's get back to the notes. Yes. Perfect. Yeah. And then let's jump in the main app. So was part of the Dev Hackathon. The reason I signed up was because all my previous apps were very self-hosted and I was really comfortable in that way. But I knew about myself that when there's something cool and new, I always like push it away, like the old man shouting out of the window. So when the Docker or React came along, I was like, no, I'm not gonna use it. And it's awesome when somebody forced me to use it. And that's exactly what Merge Dev Hackathon did for me for blocks, because I wanted to take the opportunity to learn about blocks, and that's what happened. So I just jumped in and said, okay, I'm going to learn about blocks. So then the first step, same as Quentin was mentioning, is like, what am I going to build? I also have a list of ideas that I grew up like over the time. So I look at it. One of the ideas was in recruitment because of the previous startup experience. So yes, that was what I was going to build in the end, I thought, because then I looked at the, let me go back a little bit. The idea was that big company like corporates, when they kind of want to hire people, they use these tools that are called ATS, applicant tracking systems. Those are kind of big systems where you keep track of all the applicants and you can have comments and like move them around the process. But then when I was building the previous apps, I found out that the companies that use Wix, or quite many of my customers of the other apps, are actually very small businesses. And for them, if they need to recruit, having ATS is just like way big overhead. So what they do is they just create a small career page on their website. And then I figure I can do that with maybe a little bit more of help to them. So I looked at the current app market. What are the apps in there? And there are 2 other apps. One kind of simple, one more advanced. But when I went through the reviews, I saw that most common feedback is that they don't fit the website. They are not customizable enough, which I thought is amazing, because that's exactly what the selling point of blocks is, that you can customize them as the end user who installs them on their website. So I figured, yeah, this is good. Let's go with it. So next, I'm going to show you how it actually looks. Yes. So here's the front-end facing thing. Let's imagine you like a bakery shop, and then you want to hire some people for your bakery. So then they might add this section, which this is the app, this list of the open positions. So you get some information about it, and then you might send an application. So here you have more information about the job, and then you can provide whatever, your CV here. And then this is using I'm using OpenAI integration to do a little bit of AI black magic here to parse the CV and also match it to the description of the job here, which is not visible for the applicant, but we will see it in the backend in a moment. Cool. So this was the backend, the front end part. This was the end of what the applicant would interact with. But on the backend side, so this is the Wix Studio that the normal owner of that site is using to develop their website that I'm sure you're familiar with. After they install the app, they can add this widget here. And this is the very cool thing about blocks, because each thing here is built out of smaller blocks. So I can go here and I can customize what the color of this button is supposed to be. I can change the text that like matches whatever I want to say here on my website. Yeah, and I can customize basically anything. So that's really cool, I think. And then if we go back to the actual app here, on the highest level, we have an option to manage jobs here. And this opens the Wix backend, so the dashboard. Here is the career and job board app. You can also get that from the backend as you normally would. And this whole part is also built with the blocks, with the admin part. Yeah. And here you have the basic, like a job management. You can say whatever, Wix magician, if I can spell right. And you can add some tags. Yeah. And this is kind of cool. We can leverage the media manager that comes with Wix, and like just choose some picture here that I have already on site, which if this would be self-hosted, this would be kind of problematic to do. Yeah, and then we can let OpenAI, think about the description a little bit, because I'm not good at that. So now it can come up with some text here, and we can create this job if you like. Yeah, and then we can look at the candidates. Here's the scoring that I talked about. There's some motivation about why this candidate got 8 out of 10. But then, of course, they have a CV, so they can decide themselves. Cool. So now I'm going to go back to the notes here. I was trying to evaluate blocks in my workflow, like if I'm going to be using them and for what I'm going to be using them. So I wrote down some pros and cons. So biggest pros that I already showed was the customizability. Like you could see that I was able to change the colors and text, which makes it very easy for the end user, for the site owner, to fit the app to their website. Another cool feature is that it's very easy to interact with the database that comes with Wix, the CMS that it is in there. You could probably do it with API too, but it's just way easier if you go with the blocks. And then something I haven't mentioned is the design match. Like if we look back at the website here, once you add this block here, it automatically takes the theme of the site. So that primary call to action button has the same primary call to action button color that you have on everywhere in the site. The text matches whatever the donor side or like the receiving side has. So that's really cool. So it is very customizable, but in the end, you don't actually need to do that much customizability because it already matches what your desired outcome is. and then cons. So this is, I guess, this is not really fair, but it's on any level of, if you increase level abstraction, like say we doing JavaScript nowadays as a programming language, if you would do assembly, you have a much bigger control, but it's much harder to do stuff. And that's exactly what I was getting at with this point, that like now it's not as easy to configure some details about, I have a lightbox, for example, for the apply page, that doesn't work as well as I would like it to work. But there's no way for me to configure it that way right now. Like, for example, in this specific scenario, it's when you click this send application, this opens a lightbox, which is sort of like a model or pop-up that's supposed to pop up, but I don't have a way to configure it so that it looks like a pop-up and it always spams the whole screen right now. The end user is like the site owner can do that, but I need to provide them with description how to do it with the steps. Yeah, for the admin side, that I would also next time probably. So for this, I would maybe go with self-hosted solution, just because the blocks, when I was building it, the block support, there wasn't as many blocks as there is in the React library of the Wix design system. So I could do way more in the Wix library, including like more complex tables, like drop downs, stuff like that. But I know Uri mentioned that I was supposed to use CLI that would make it possible. So that might be something I don't know about. Yeah. So for me, like the summary when I'm going to be preferring to use blocks is whenever it's like a front facing to the user, to the end user of the site. Then it's amazing if it can be done in blocks. That would be really good, I think. Yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to say. So I'm open for questions now or anytime. I'm Pavel on the Discord, or this is my website.
That was awesome. I really liked your use of AI in there. I feel like everybody tries to like force AI into places where it doesn't necessarily need to go anymore, but I thought this was a nice kind of pro for somebody using this block. They get a nice description to start and then can just modify from there. So it's a great way to save that person time. In addition to they're getting that time saving element from just using your app in the first place. I don't personally have any more questions. I think you guys both did an amazing review of this. I'm really excited to see what's next. Ori, did you have any thoughts or questions for our panelists today?
I think they just both did brilliant work and great on work on demoing it. I loved seeing like the code and how it was, sectioned off in different ways and organized. And I'm like, okay, I should get a little bit better of doing that myself. And obviously, everything Pavel showed there from the ideation and all the UI work and trying to make it look really nice was really brilliant. And just want to say, like, if anyone has any questions or ideas, or they're not sure about what apps to make or, how to monetize, anything like that, just talk to us in the Discord, and I'm happy to help.
Yeah, there's a whole great team from supporting all of the app developers, supporting all of the questions that you have, and it's a really kind of exciting time. We're seeing more and more app developers all the time. It's a new ability to be able to launch these on our app market. Previously, Wix made all of the apps, so this is like a huge opportunity for developers. Really excited to see what everybody's doing. Thank you again, Quentin and Pavel, for your time. For anybody still in the chat here, still watching, we will be processing this video and uploading it to YouTube. I'll also drop the link in the Discord community when it's live, so you can replay this. And feel free to reach out to us or either of the guys with any more questions. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day.